When did this start?
As a country, we have failed.
Birth, life, death, decay. It's a cycle. It's inescapable.
How did you come together to start this?
Everything we had learned and our mission and our beliefs and our values and started Force of Nature to really amplify and accelerate this global regeneration.
Guys, I was eating deer for breakfast the other day.
That's next level.
It's pretty sick.
This idea that plant-based agriculture should get a free pass is insanity.
Completely unacceptable.
They think it's healthier for them. It's definitively not. They think it's better for the environment. It's horribly not.
Yikes.
When you eat from an industrial system, you are consuming death and suffering.
Wow.
That's where things have really fallen off of a cliff.
I have you two, and I'm sure many others, to thank because you were the ones that convinced my wife to finally start partaking in eating meat with me. I was a lone ranger there for a minute, and now our whole household is on Force of Nature. So thank you guys. Welcome to the show.
I told you guys when you first came in that my hair and body is fueled by Force of Nature.
Well, thank you for having us.
Of course.
And thank you for the support. I've heard that there was like a meat bowl routine that I'm supposed to ask you about.
It's pretty sick. What I do is I take your ground ancestral blend and I cook it up, and then I'll do a huge bowl, like a huge one of meat with sauerkraut, hot sauce, a little bit of raw cheese, and sometimes I'll do like a salsa on top. It's so good.
That's next level.
Yeah.
Is this a daily thing?
Every day.
Wow.
And you're talking to somebody that when we were in California, like I think I maybe saw you have 2 steaks a year, maybe. It's been a kind of radical change. Like for me, my dad was a meat potatoes guy, so it's normal for me. But for her, it's like a whole 180.
I love hearing that because I'm a girl dad and Taylor's a girl dad,
Nice.
and like I have this fear of my daughter growing up and being afraid to eat meat, and I know that it is so not just good, but necessary, essential, and critical. And I feel like as a country, we have failed our moms and daughters and sisters and all of the women by giving them horrible nutrition advice and telling them to stay away from red meat and go right towards chicken. And like we couldn't have failed them more and given them worse advice. Like it's just terrible.
That must drive you guys nuts when you, knowing all that you know, which we're going to get into, and see online like what the advice is.
Yeah. It's pretty much, it makes me skeptical of everything and almost makes me want to go do the opposite of what any kind of 3-letter government agency recommends. So I hear you.
So when did you guys see white space in this area, and how did you come together to start this? Give us a little bit of the backstory.
Robby and I, we've known each other for a long time. We grew up in Austin together, and early in life, like we knew each other when we were, before we could drive. And my wife, Katie, knew Robby before I did. And so the three of us kind of went different ways in life and then connected later in life when my wife and I were going through some health journey. We had a vegan company of all things, and that didn't work out. That was the opposite of everything we should have done. And my wife, if she was still vegan, she'd either be in a wheelchair now or possibly have only one leg, which would have been pretty interesting. Like
Why?
A peg leg wife. She had chronic inflammation, chronic gastrointestinal issues. She was competing at really high levels for Ironman races, and she couldn't even get on her bike. It was terrible. And so her and I made a pivot from our vegan lifestyle, abandoned our vegan brand, started eating meat again, and then we're so inspired that we were like, let's start a meat company. And then that's where Robby came back into our lives. And so the three of us ran this company called Epic, which was like a protein bar made out of meat, for a couple of years. And then we ended up selling that. And then we doubled down on everything we had learned and our mission and our beliefs and our values and started Force of Nature to really amplify and accelerate this global regeneration.
So let's high level, and we're going to talk about Force of Nature. But if you guys were, there's a lot of people that I think, especially in this space, are maybe misinformed or not as informed, or maybe they're, there's a lot of confirmation bias going on. And like, again, and I've said for years, morally, if people decide to do something for a moral reason, I don't have a leg to stand on, you're going to make those choices. But from like a pure health standpoint, why did you guys get so into focusing in the categories that you're in? And what do you think people would be surprised about hearing that maybe do you think maybe the general public is mostly uninformed about?
I think from a health perspective, there's so many things,
Yeah, we have time.
I think like to your point about the white space, we learned a lot about meat in particular, no doubt, right? And like to Taylor's point, the value set that they had as vegans, wanting to honor the land and be considerate of the consequences that you're having when you produce food, wanting to be thoughtful about the ethics of the welfare of the animals, wanting to make sure that the system you're participating in is actually nourishing humans. And those were the things that at the time, if you followed the dogma, and I'm sure you might have been there on your journey too, we were told can't be achieved with meat. And that is through the journey with Epic, what we figured out actually wasn't true whatsoever. And if you go back and you look at evolution, you see just how critical and fundamental it has been to our development as humans and our brain development and our health and how our bodies work. But then you look at like, over the last generation or so, since the Green Revolution and since animal agriculture and plant agriculture has been industrialized, that's where things have really fallen off of a cliff. And so I think when you say like, what are some health things that people would be surprised by? I would say like this idea that plant-based agriculture should get a free pass is insanity. I get really frustrated when I hear this dogmatic conversation of like, it's got to be plants and only plants, or it's got to be animals and only animals. It's like nowhere on the planet is there an ecosystem that's thriving and functioning and producing an abundance of healthy creatures that is solely animals or solely plants. That's a monocrop, right? It's always been plants and animals in harmony and in functioning systems. And so I say it's not plant-based or animal-based, it's planet-based. And this idea that we have 300 or 400 million acres of corn at any given time in the United States. You see it when you fly in a plane, you look down, it looks like a checkerboard of where we have tilled, sprayed herbicide, sprayed fungicide, sprayed fertilizer, sprayed every kind of side intended to destroy life and create a monocrop of a single product, whether it be corn or soy or wheat or peanuts or one of the few things that we produce in this country.
So when people fly around and they see those perfect squares outlined, the majority of the time it's those things.
Yeah, I mean the United States is about 2 billion acres, and we practice agriculture on about half of it. So when you think about the scale of decimating landscapes and then poisoning it, and then most of that running off into our water supply, which is why glyphosate is showing up in breast milk and urine, and why we have dead zones in oceans and algae blooms in riverways and pollinator dies off, all these sorts of things. It's because of the horrible practices we have in raising plants for agriculture. So like terrible, right? Similar thing could be said
So to pause there real quick, and I'm gonna do it just a few times. You're making a lot of points here, just to keep up. So as people that are maybe more plant-based are obviously also concerned about the environment and concerned about what's in our water supply and the municipal supply and all these things. One of the things you're saying here is because of what we've done from an agricultural perspective with all of this land in the U.S. with these practices, a lot of these issues are becoming issues because of all the runoff that's happening on a lot of these plant farms. That's correct. Is that?
Oh yeah, and it goes farther than that with runoff, and again, like rabbit holes that have rabbit holes within them, but leaving that amount of ground exposed allows for erosion. Erosion is one of the biggest challenges we have threatening food security globally. When you hear stats that come from organizations like the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations saying we only have 60 harvests left on the planet, that is specifically pointing to a fact about the rate of eroding soil, which is considered to be a non-renewable resource that is finite, that is the source of all life on the planet. The rate at which we're eroding that globally because of how we're mistreating our food-producing land bases is so great that we won't be able to produce food in the current methodology in 60 years if that amount of soil loss continues. That soil happens to be taking the fertilizer, pesticide, fungicide, et cetera, everything with it on its journey to the ocean.
Yikes.
What are some facts that would shock anyone? It doesn't have to be vegan, meat eater. What are just some facts that you guys have that are shocking to you guys?
I got one. So there's 5.6 billion pounds of poison that are put on these monocrops of food globally. And that's annually. And so when we think about, okay, like what is our global population right now? I don't know, 8 billion? Close. That's almost a pound of poison per person on the globe per year. That's completely unacceptable. And no one's having a conversation about the unintended consequences. Why are fertility rates plummeting? Why are cancer rates rising? Why is Alzheimer's high? And so the chemical use in agriculture, we have a chemical agricultural system now.
When did this start? Like in what year did this start to be common practice and abundant?
Coming out of World War II, a lot of the chemical manufacturing plants that produced the chemicals for bombs or chemical warfare, were able to be transitioned into producing fertilizers and other products that then, incited the green revolution. Where, look, I mean, if we're being honest, like, we can't say it was evil intention. The thought was, hey, can we create more yield and reduce the cost of food, which is, I would say, a noble endeavor, until you fast forward a generation or two and you can look at the consequences, and they are great in both in number and in impact. And we can logically say, okay, like, this is a bit too far. We need to rewind this. It's not worth it.
I want to talk to someone who does eat meat for a second. If someone's listening, they eat meat, what are the things that they need to be looking for in their meat? Because, like, I know I just heard it, you need grass-fed and grass-finished, but it has to stay 100%. Like, what are all these things that we need to be? How can we be sort of our own guru?
Yeah, I'll start off. I mean, the first thing is that meat shouldn't get a pass. We're opposed to chemical industrial monocropping, but we're also opposed to industrial factory modeling with animal-based food production. So, like, feedlots, that's an abomination. That should be outlawed. That's terrible for consumers. That's terrible for the environment as well. And so when you're actually kind of breaking down those hierarchy and the tiers of the protein and label pack claims, I think if you're looking for a ruminant animal, you're always going to benefit. So a bison, a beef cow, a sheep, or a goat, that's always going to be better for you and the environment. And then looking for claims like 100% grass-fed and regenerative. Now, regenerative is always going to be that top tier claim, because the assumption should be safely made that animal is already on pasture, but it's creating a net positive return back on the ecosystem.
I have recently, in the last year, taken up a new hobby, tennis. Michael and I play tennis wherever we go. Whenever we're traveling, we literally plan our whole trip around our tennis. So, like, if we're playing tennis early in the morning, we won't go out to dinner and have drinks. We'll, like, move drinks to lunch. We'll plan our trip around tennis. And it's been really fun to be active. And it's also such a great way to strengthen our relationship. It's fun. And during tennis, I wear a specific tennis outfit. I am obsessed. Okay. It's this dress. It's by Roback. First of all, it's so flattering, but most importantly, I can, like, move in it. So it's called the Demi Active Dress. And it's on Roback's site, and it comes in black. It comes in like a dark midnight green, and then a navy and a pale blue, and also a watermelon. I got the pale blue because I think it's perfect for summer, but I also have the black. So those have been my two go-to outfits when I'm playing tennis. I have to have something that's comfortable, that's breathable. I want something that has, like, a built-in liner. They really have thought of everything when it comes to their active dresses. If you are a tennis player or you just want to look like one because they're so cute, you have to check out this dress. If you haven't already, it's now time to try out some Roback. Use code SKINNY on roback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of the week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all hoodies, joggers, crews, and more with code SKINNY. Stay comfortable this spring with Roback. The other day, Towns, my son, got a burn on his knee. And he kept saying boo, 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 boo. And I wanted to use something natural, non-toxic, but I needed something medical grade because there was, like, a burn happening. So I pulled out my Active Skin Repair. This is absolutely amazing. If you're looking for something non-toxic that can treat skin issues like cuts, scrapes, burns, sunburns, rashes, this is it, okay? Basically, it uses a special molecule. And when it's applied to the skin, it works by mimicking the natural immune response to cleanse and soothe irritation. It also reduces inflammation and supports healing. All of the ingredients are medical grade, and people are obsessed. There's like 500,000 happy customers. They have thousands of 5-star reviews. Their ingredients are so safe and clean that they can really be used on the youngest member of your family. So Towns is almost 2 years old. I used it on his knee, and it really helped him heal. I think it's great if someone has rosacea or eczema or you're acne prone. It's just a really great ingredient that's non-toxic, that's super healing and nourishing. You should also know if you have, like, broken capillaries, you can use this as a daily facial toner to eliminate bacteria and optimize skin health. Visit ActiveSkinRepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and to get 20% off your order. You can use code SKINNY at ActiveSkinRepair.com. You get 20% off. I will not wind down at night without magnesium. You will never see me going to bed without taking magnesium. There's been too many smart people that come on our podcast and tell us that so many people, like 95%, are low in magnesium. And I have found that when I go to sleep and I take magnesium and I habit stack that with some mouth tape and my Kindle on dark mode, I have just a better sleep. The one that I've been taking is the highest quality on the market. You'll see the effects immediately. You literally take it and you'll notice you have a deeper sleep. It's the advanced magnesium from JS Health Vitamins. I started taking it after she came on the podcast. It contains 3 different forms of bioavailable magnesium. You can go on their site and check out exactly which magnesiums, and it's carefully designed to support muscle relaxation and recovery, which I need for weightlifting, energy production, and nervous system function. I am all about the nervous system in 2024. That is like my thing. Jessica's supplements are formulated and designed in Australia. They are the best of the best, like I said, for all your needs. They have skin, digestion, stress, sleep, hair growth, all the things. I just happen to really love the magnesium. Another good one on there is the fish oil. Everything is quality. And fun fact, her fish oil has vanilla coating on it, so there's no fishy aftertaste. She really thought of everything. Visit jshealthvitamins.com/skinny and use code skinny. You'll receive 20% off your order or first subscription order. That's jshealthvitamins.com/skinny. So it needs to say regenerative. How do you say that word?
Regenerative.
Regenerative
Mm-hmm.
and 100% grass fed. And what about with chicken? I know that that's chickens. Like, I feel like people call it the dirty bird.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Is that true?
You know, chickens are these incredible animals that came from Asia that lived in jungles that we have just destroyed and dumbed them down into like these little biological feed conversion machines that get chronically ill really quick, produce abnormally large breasts, but their lungs and organs don't develop. So they end up very sick and sad, and then they go to slaughter. And it's just such a horrible thing to do to a living sentient being. In the name of, again, you can put them into these little chicken factories and get a lot of output. We, in this country, we kill about 30 million head of cattle. We kill 8 billion chickens.
Wow.
It's a lot of death, right? To produce.
You kill one chicken for basically every person on the planet every year.
Yep, just to feed the United States, though. And
that's just here.
That's just here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is half of that chicken McNuggets?
That's definitely how they make chicken McNuggets. It's 100%. That plus mechanically separated pink sludge, right? Which is a whole separate conversation. But again, with the challenge with poultry isn't just like how we've mistreated these animals. It's, they just took really well to this industrialized model where we could dominate a system and control all of the variables. They're small, they grow fast. We can feed them corn and soy, which we overproduce in a commodity-based system. All of these things, but ultimately, then it's like the original plant-based meat. Like, it doesn't deliver what the consumer thinks it delivers. They think it's healthier for them. It's definitively not. They think it's better for the environment. It's horribly not better for the environment. It's certainly not better for welfare when we've bred a breed of chicken now that won't evade predation, can't breed, won't breed. It just doesn't have biological instincts left inside of it. And so, I think it is a dirty bird. I think if you looked at the conditions that they're living in, you'd be incredibly off put. But then also going back to our earlier point about being, fathers and husbands and feeling, like our wives and children have been let down. If you look at just the micronutrients of critical need across the country, the folate, iron, B12, calcium, magnesium, vitamin A, these are the micronutrients we're most depleted in across the world, including developed nations and particularly women of reproductive age. The amount of chicken it takes to get a third of the daily recommended value of those key ingredients is 1,100 calories. That's a pound of chicken. It takes 7 calories of liver. It's like a teaspoon. You know what I mean? Or like one single 4-ounce serving. Like when you take a single quarter pounder hamburger of beef gets you that. So it's like ruminant animals are what our landscapes evolved symbiotically to thrive in. The meat is what gives us everything that we need. And it can be done in a way that the animal is living its like best life in its best environment. And yet somehow like meat consumption is going down and chicken consumption is going up. And it's because you can get a chicken at, a club store or any grocery store for like $4.99. It's fully cooked. It's sitting there next to the register. It smells good. It's like Cinnabon in the airport. Like you walk by and you're just drawn to it.
It's cooking in microplastics.
Totally cooking in microplastics, right? But like that chicken.
Yum.
So what I always say about chicken is like you should pay a lot more for it and eat a lot less of it. You know, like Rome, Katie and Taylor have an incredible poultry program. They raise turkeys and I've raised chickens and I've raised eggs, layer hens. And it's like these animals have a role. It's not to say just like, you know, they don't have value in life or on this planet, but like they have taken center stage on our plate to the point where we used to have the saying for hundreds of years, like a chicken in every pot. That was a term that was meant to convey abundance and health. And, you know, like American presidents have said it, like European kings have said it as like a sign of like, we're going to make sure this population is well taken care of. And we've gone down to commodify, which means to cheapen chickens to be just like nothing, you know, like they don't offer the nutritional value. So anyway, I'll get off my chicken rant there, but it's like really sad. And I know you have a predominantly women audience. So when you ask for recommendations on looking for meat, it's like, first of all, every time that you think that ordering chicken is the right thing for you to do, just eat beef or bison.
Well, what I noticed after eating my bowl of beef every day for the last 2 years is my hair has never been longer. I took my extensions out. My nails have never grown faster. I've lost the most weight I've ever had to lose, and I feel full and satisfied. It's so funny. The other day I saw this girl on Instagram. I don't know who it was. I'll have to find it and put it in the show notes. But she was saying that meat is essentially doing the same thing that Ozempic's doing. And what she meant is that it keeps you full and satisfied, so you're not binging on or eating a bunch of food. And
except you don't lose all the muscle mass with the
except
meat.
you
And
don't
bone density.
Yeah.
You got
right,
that
and
calcium
bone
in there.
density.
Or
And your hair
collagen.
doesn't fall out. And it grows longer. So I think that's super interesting that I would love to hear more of what beauty benefits you guys see from beef.
But I just want to make a comment real quick, speaking to the women that listen to this audience and also becoming a father of a daughter and, you know, thinking about this as well. When we lived in LA, and like I've always been a meat eater and I've never really thought about it. Just like that's how I grew up, and it just inherently figured, you know, of course we eat meat. Like that's how we evolved. You know, dads eat meat, I eat meat. Like everybody eats meat. Every book you read is like this. That's how we evolved on this planet. So it was never strange to me. There's only been in like recent times you're starting to have this big green movement, which again, like to each his own. But I would be eating this way, and she would do these smoothies and these weird kale things. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. Tell me if you want me to stop. And I would watch all this stuff.
Lentil pasta.
But yeah, lentil pasta, like just weird stuff. And I was like, what is all this? And she was always like hungry and then like eating at night. And I never really thought about it because in my mind, just being a guy, I was like, oh, I guess that's just how women eat, right? Like who am I to say like what their diet should be? I knew, like for me, I was like, I would never eat like that. But you know, we would go to these restaurants, make pastas and stuff, and you know, still be hungry. And I never really thought it was strange. But then when we started working out together, she started lifting weights with me and she started doing this. I'm like, oh, why the fuck did I not say like, of course, this is the diet. Like you should incorporate.
You didn't know you were brainwashed too.
No, but it's not that I was brainwashed. I think a lot of guys are like, oh, cool. Like this is how I eat. And then my wife.
Yeah, I'll get a steak. You get your salad. Everybody's happy.
Yeah. But looking back, I feel kind of dumb not saying like, why are you not incorporating more animal-based protein into your diet if you're trying to lose weight or gain muscle or have better hair or more collagen or better skin? By the way, you guys have great skin. And I just never thought about it because the way that I feel you get most of your vitamins and minerals is through these diets, and all the supplements are great to kind of support. But like, this is the way that men have done it for years, predominantly. And so like, I guess what I'm saying is, I think a lot of guys just don't think to go to their significant other or their daughter or their wife and say like, hey, why are you eating just salads and pastas and lentils and all these things that maybe aren't as efficient as some of the other things.
To your point, I did see a stat recently, and I forget the exact number, but it's some relatively small percentage of men in the United States eat like, I think it's like 12% of men in the United States are eating like 80% of the beef that we're producing.
Wow.
And it does, and it's not saying anything other than not enough other constituencies are consuming enough of one of the most critical foods and nutrient dense foods that we have. And I think, to your point about, you know, the beauty features, you just laid out a ton of them, right? From skin to hair to nails. And I think that you know, I've heard and I know you have guessed like a lot of the things that you can do to treat topically and beef tallow and things like that. But again, you're also feeding your skin internally. And I think one of the other things is, you know, like mental disorders, you know, depression, anxiety, All of those other elements, like the fact that for every human cell you have in your body, you have 10 non-human cells, and we're recognizing the importance of like fueling that and the gut microbiome, and how much of your attitude and mindset and health, all of the instances that we're seeing of autoimmune disorders that can lead to conditions like eczemas and so on. So, and so many other things. So yeah, I mean, like anything that you can do to promote wellness is going to have positive outcomes on what we would consider to be features of beauty and so many others. And I would say having a good personality and the capacity to engage in conversation and enjoy life is a pretty beautiful thing.
You want to know another one? This is okay. So I have Skinny Confidential mouth tape to tape your mouth shut to breathe from your nose. And I've been so obsessed with nose breathing. Nose breathing is really good for your jaw structure and your face. But you know what else is good for your jaw structure and your face? Eating meat.
Exactly.
And what happens is a lot of kids are not given meat. And so they have weak jaw structures because they're not chewing on the meat.
Well, we're not
Have
designed.
you guys heard this?
There you go. Yeah,
Humans
Weston
are
A.
not
Price
designed
right
to
there.
survive off smoothies. Like you have teeth in your mouth for a reason.
Have you
Right.
guys ever heard that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole premise of the Weston A. Price Foundation. Have you guys been familiar with that?
Tell us.
So there was a medical doctor named Weston A. Price, and he was studying world cultures, Americans with their busted grills, crooked teeth, saying, what is going on here?
With some teeth removed.
Yeah, started going to other cultures around the planet, and he was noticing these like indigenous people had immaculate, beautiful jaw structures. When you look at the Comanches and the Apaches and the Cheyenne Indians, some of the most handsome people you've ever seen because of their teeth, never had these issues. So they're like, well, what's going on? What's the difference? Oh, it's how these cultures are eating radically different. And so that very premise, that is I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is absolute beauty. And not only the structure of your jaw and your teeth, but also your airway. So being able to effectively breathe in a healthy way.
Yeah, so don't just eat tenderloins. Get those like chewy cuts of meat too, especially since they're going to be bringing all that like valuable connective tissue loaded with collagen and all the other stuff. But like every time you're chewing on a chunk of meat, know that you're doing yourself a favor.
Guys, I was eating deer for breakfast the other day. If you would have told me 3 years ago that I would be waking up and eating deer for breakfast, I would have been like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? So I'm chewing my meat. I'm eating my meat.
You're
Yeah.
Texan now. So it's official. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I want you guys to riff a little bit on liver. I was eating too much liver and Michael called me out. I know you
I
can
didn't call you out. I just said, hey, you don't like. It was like
It was,
a lot
like,
of
too much.
It was a lot. I said, you don't. Maybe you can overdo it, right?
talk
you-
to us about the
Can you overdo too much liver?
Yeah. I think some would say that you could overdo anything. You can overdo
Sure.
water.
Sure.
I mean, absolutely. So, but I don't think that in the average person's going to have that problem. Certainly not in this
No,
day and
no.
age.
No,
so
no,
you
no.
think it's okay to eat a little bit every day?
I would say so.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
But again, like, look, like even our ancestors, which is why, Taylor came up with the term ancestral blend for those items, is because when we launched that product line where and by the way, that's the line where we take ordinary ground meat and we incorporate a little bit of heart and a little bit of liver into the blend. So you don't taste it, but you get the benefit of it, because a little bit does go a long way. And, our ancestors and even our animal ancestors, like wolves and other animals, like these organs are so nutrient dense. They're the first cuts that are selected for. And even in the expansion of the West and the United States, like as folks were going out, they wouldn't be, harvesting an animal and going straight to eating the tenderloins. They'd be getting those nutrient dense cuts. And so there's a place for them, but also look at the composition of an animal. We always think of nose to tail eating. You're getting a 7-pound heart or a 20-pound liver on a carcass that's going to carry 400 or 500 pounds of meat. So there's a natural ratio there that I would say it's probably good to honor that ratio, and getting a little bit every day is probably right. But I wouldn't want to flip that ratio around.
Sure. So, if to talk about force of nature a little bit, what would you describe as the main differences between what you guys do and what most people get in the grocery store? I think starting there and just how you guys go about your process.
You made me a steak from Whole Foods the other day.
Yeah, it was not great.
No offense, Whole Foods.
It was not great.
It was like, I was like, what is going on?
was not
What's
great.
the differences? Because you can taste it.
Yeah, and I think just talking about your process, because when we talk about regeneratively raised, defining that to people, because I think people hear about animals and butchering animals and immediately they're going to think of certain things. I just want you guys to talk about how you kind of differentiate.
I think, and we kind of touched on it. We started to touch on it a bit early on, but I'm glad you kind of brought this question back up, because I think one of the differences is that, people don't just misunderstand what's going on in the meat industry. They've been outright deceived. And it's by design, it's intentional, right? We have done some pretty, the broad we as an industry have done some pretty messed up things to animals, but also to full consumers so that they continue to be complicit in a system that I think does not align with their values. And so we see in the data where consumers are selecting for things that say natural on the package. That means nothing. Ignore it. It's garbage. Where we select for things that say antibiotic free or hormone free or organic. I mean, again, we have gone through, and these are milestones in moving forward in a journey, but the truth is, all of those things that I just said can still come out of, and will most commonly come out of, a feedlot. And I'm talking like 99.9% of the time. These animals are being finished, the end part of their life, fattened up on corn and soy, probably GMO, in a feedlot. And so it's just like, I don't want to eat 6 sedentary animals that I've eat, arguably toxic food to end their life. And so I think the reality is, like, consumers are showing what they have an interest in. I think they want an animal that's healthy, that comes from a system that looks healthy, that comes from a community of human beings stewarding that landscape, and that community is healthy. That's what people want. That's what they imagine when they go and they pay a lot of money at a really nice store for an expensive piece of meat that has a lot of claims on it. They think it's coming from one of those things, and 9 times out of 10, it's not. And so I think when you say regenerative, you mean an animal that lived an evolutionarily consistent life in a symbiotic fashion with the ecosystem and the landscape that it evolved in, such that it provided a positive outcome on that landscape. The landscape is healthier, the animal is healthier, the community that it came from is healthier. That is the manifestation of what consumers are looking for and want when they're going and looking for meat and buying meat with claims, especially when they're actively and intentionally paying a premium for something they think is better. So that's what I would say at the highest level, what regenerative represents is it represents what consumers are showing that they expect and are demanding. There's a whole lot more detail into that.
Regeneration, I like to think about industrial agriculture as the opposition of that, which is chemical and mechanical warfare against nature. It's controlling and dominating life. And so when you think about energy goes where energy flows, or life begets life, when you eat from an industrial system, you are consuming death and suffering. The regenerative is the option. You don't have to eat that way. Animals have this beautiful symbiotic way they co-evolve with Mother Nature for millennia, bison specifically in North America, where our most fertile food systems were gifted to us, a blessing from those animals. And so we should highlight and allow those animals to express that regenerative potential, because they're truly regenerative beings. And so if industrial agriculture is opposition of life force, regenerative agriculture is embracing and amplifying life force.
It makes so much sense. It's like, you are what you eat. I don't want to eat, you don't want to eat antibiotics, hormones, all the dead energy. Like, I want to eat clean energy. So I totally agree with you on that.
Somebody messaged me the other day. It was like something about kale, and I was like, I don't eat kale. I never liked it. It was just like a strange texture, but I don't eat it because I don't like it, but 2, there's been so many things that come out, just like the way that you mass produce this stuff and the chemicals that go onto a lot of these plants. And I think, a lot of times people think they're doing a good thing because it's green and it's, a vegetable. They don't realize all the shit that had to go into producing that at mass scale. So I want you guys to talk about that a little bit as well, because when I hear something, when I hear about an animal and how much meat it provides just with one animal, one of those animals could feed a family for, some of those for a year, depending on how big it is. And when I think about the other side of it, it's it requires a lot of chemical production to produce at scale a lot of these crops. And I think a lot of people are misinformed about that. They just read organic and think that they're getting a great product.
Yeah, I can show you a picture as a follow-up of a photo I took on one side of a long highway. On the left side, there was an organic farm, actually the largest organic farm in the world. I think it's something like 40,000 acres. On the right side of the highway is a regenerative bison ranch that we work with and we purchase bison from. Happens to be the bison ranch where they filmed Dances with Wolves.
Oh, cool.
And it was at the right time of year where they had just, in order to avoid spraying toxic herbicides, but wanting to control for weeds, they had just tilled this 40,000 acres. People don't think much of tilling because it's just common. You run a tractor with a till behind it. They don't realize that 25% of life on Earth lives in the first 8 inches of soil. And that life is what instills fertility into the ground, and that brings the energy of the sun in the form of carbohydrates and puts those sugars into the soil to feed that life and spits off oxygen for us and sequesters carbon out of the atmosphere and all these incredible things. And that it protects the soil by not being tilled up, et cetera. And that 30% of the legacy load of carbon that's man-made in the atmosphere is caused from tilling, because it oxidizes the carbon. That we are all carbon-based life, and it sends it up into the atmosphere. So all these horrible things come from tilling. Tilling is just awful, but that's the alternative to spraying herbicides in an organic system. And so when you go back to this, now imagining this photo, and on one side of the road, it looks like the surface of the moon. There's nothing there. It is barren of life because it was just tilled. The other side of the road, it is functioning, thriving grasslands, a diverse ecosystem. There are pollinators, there are birds, there are multiple species of mammals, and everything that you can imagine, including bison. And it is like, well, that right there is the epitome of an organic, plant-based food system compared to a regenerative, animal-based food system. One is teeming and thriving with life, like Taylor was explaining and defining regenerative. And the other is void of it. And I'm not here to disparage organic. I think it's an important milestone, and we would all agree, please don't put poison directly onto my food. Actually, just don't use poison, but certainly don't put it directly onto my food. And so, yeah, when it goes back to like this idea of what is regenerative is like is saying, hey, look, these landscapes have this fertility because nature has these incredible cycles, this energy cycle, water cycle, nutrient cycle, carbon cycle. And when you farm in a way that celebrates those cycles and works with them, and you move animals around like herds of megafauna or herds of bison moving across the landscape, and when you let all of that diversity sing and thrive, you end up instilling and creating and building upon fertility versus the existing industrial system. Even in what we would have thought, a few years ago was the best version of it, you are mining that fertility and degrading the land. So I think, again, like to the answer of what is regenerative, to the answer of like what would people not recognize about the health consequences of the plant-based and vegetable-based system. And the other thing I would say is, and you kind of talked about some of the vegan myths that we've all been misled by. That going back to that side by side on that road, that regenerative operation, that healthy grassland has about 1 billion sentient life forms per acre.
What does that mean?
It was like a 56,000 acre ranch. Sentience means like the capacity to know that you're alive and you're interacting with your environment. You can think and feel.
So if you till 100 acres, you're saying you're killing 100 billion sentient beings.
Yes.
Ecological desert. Yeah, there's no life force there.
Well, I think what humans are good at is discounting some of those life forms that are maybe smaller life forms, or maybe less cute, or maybe, yeah, exactly. They don't have the big eyes to search you with, but they can't, and they're able to discount those life forms in a way that they can't other. And I just, I think that that's a blind spot that we have as humanity. Is it's like if all life is equal and that's the belief that you have, then you have to treat those beings the same as the other beings, and we're decimating some of those beings, some of the practices we have in the name of maybe better for you, or what we think is better for you, or good, when really it's now at this point proven maybe not to be.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a diet that doesn't depend on death, because that just defies the cycle of nature. It's birth, life, death, decay. It's a cycle. It's inescapable. And so for you to consume energy, something has to lose its life. And that's a disconnection. And it's manifested in this reality that less than 1% of Americans have actually been out to a farm in which they buy their vegetables or their meat. And it's this disconnection with source, with the land, that allows these systems to perpetuate. And so it's like, for me, if you come out to my ranch, you can be a hardcore vegan, please come out and see what I'm doing with your opinions. And then let's go over to my neighbor's ranch who's tilling and has a monoculture of plant-based, chemical, industrial stuff. And you tell me which one is more conducive for life and which one is more kind to an ecosystem. And you are lying to yourself if you're not picking the regenerative system where plants and animals are together.
I want you guys to go off on that, because my friend and trainer went to your farm, Brent, shout out, Bodies by Brent. And he said that the process of the way that you guys handle the animals is very interesting. And he told me there's a thing where the animals all stand around and sort of mourn the animal. Can you talk us through what he meant by that?
Yeah, we do field harvest at the ranch in Fredericksburg, which, by the way, y'all
Yeah.
have to come out
I know,
have to
I
go.
want to come.
this
Have
is,
to go.
we eat raw liver, by the way, hot liver, and it tastes like a gala apple. Promise you. It's going to blow your mind. I mean, we do all this stuff. We get pretty weird, but it's amazing. Y'all can get weird with us. But what you're explaining is there's this complexity when we harvest a bison. All of nature is paying attention, is intimately present to a phase shift, an energy transformation that we can't perceive. But there's subtle energies all around us that flow through us, that flow above us, that flow within us. And there is a release of energy and it's shifting into a particle state back into the ethers. And the entire bison herd comes around and they all circle that down to animal and they're feeling that expression of release of life. And I mean, the bird song changes. We have insects, butterflies come and swarm in and
Wow.
manifest in that area. We'll have migratory birds all day circling that area. So it's something really beautiful that we have the ability to peek beneath the veil and kind of see life in a different lens. But we allow the herd to have that moment. It's important. And then we move them and then they get excited about fresh grass. And then everyone comes out there and they touch that animal and they thank it and they pray over it or say a poem or sing a song. And we drink some live blood, or we drink some blood flowing from it. And it's just such a beautiful way to connect back to the source of all life.
What does blood do? Is there benefits of drinking blood?
I mean, it's like life force to me.
What does it taste like?
It tastes like minerals. It tastes like like sea salt. Like if you ever put sea salt in water or something like that and
Yeah.
drink it. And all animals are different, which is kind of fun. Some of it's super mild and some of it's a little bit intense. But yeah, we'll share that. Everyone puts their finger on it and drinks it, and it's just a really beautiful way to connect back to that animal and show some reverence for it.
Do you guys like raw milk?
I was just about to say there are some tribes in Africa that would be putting that blood in raw milk.
Oh,
Well, a lot of
Yeah.
the the Mongolians, they were able to travel off like such far vast spaces of land because they would mix the mare milk of their horse with the blood when they needed to escape or go for far distances, and that was what sustained them. So, like, it's funny because I think people are quick to discount how we got here. They just assume, like a lot of these diets we're talking about, like this was just how you lived life because you didn't go to the grocery store back then and grab a bunch of stuff. And they didn't have all these different. I was like, this is how you sustain.
the microplastic chicken on aisle 2.
It's funny. We were talking to Gwyneth Paltrow the other day, of all people, and I said, we were talking about raw milk, and I said, 50, 60, 100 years ago, it was just milk. There's no such thing as like raw milk. This is just milk, right? Like these are things that we've done in the last 50, 60, 70 years where we kind of like created these new subcategories and we've gotten away from the ways that we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years. And so when you say drinking blood, like that doesn't strike me. I think a lot of people hear that now and they can't fathom it, but this is how cultures and societies thrive for thousands of years.
Well, like Taylor said a moment ago with the harvest, it's like we'll get weird, and it's like, no, that's not weird. That's like what humans have done forever. It's only weird where we live today, the world that we exist in today, where that is considered the odd thing, is that you would engage in a community of people in a really beautiful celebration of life and participate in this system and have and form a deep and meaningful relationship where you have such reverence for an animal, but also recognize that it was put here with a role to sustain life. And this is that event happening for you. And even the rest of the herd that gathers around the animal to pay, as we would consider pay their respects, recognizes that role they play. It's like, it is connecting in the natural order of things and probably the most human thing that many folks have ever done. But it looks weird from the modern eye or from the modern perspective.
Yeah, and again, I think it's just because we've become so disconnected from the sources of our food. Like people don't realize that, like just walking into, like I don't feel morally better walking into a store and grabbing something out of a meat. Well, you hear like hunters, will talk about feeling connected to their food because they have to spend a bunch of time and then carry the animal and harvest it and all of these things. And to me, that is more morally sound to go and, hunt your own food than going to a store and just pulling it off a shelf with no connection to it and also no connection to where it came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no one wakes up for one of our bison field harvests in the morning and says, today I'm going to drink blood or eat raw liver. What happens is you're in this hyper present state where epigenetics inside you are literally turning back on. It's forgotten wisdom that your great grandparents expressed in every generation before that, 600 generations ago. And you're turning things on that make sense and you're plugging back in the most intimate way to nature. And that's one vehicle to do it. There's many other ways to do it. But when you're in the moment, it just makes so much sense and it feels so right. And there's never a dry eye out there, but the tears aren't of sorrow for the animal. The tears are for like reconnecting to something that's greater than all of us.
Every single day, we drink tea. Fun fact about us. We are tea drinkers in our house. Michael actually got me to stop drinking coffee after 9:30. So after 9:30, it's all tea all day long.
It's tea time with Lipton green tea.
Lipton green tea. Let me tell you about it. The other day, I prepared for Michael a huge pitcher of Lipton green tea, and I added some raw honey to it. I added some mint leaves to it. I put it over ice. I put it in the fridge, and I had a huge pitcher of fresh iced tea waiting at home when he got home after a hard day of work.
Very Susie homemaker of you.
I thought so too. You should know that drinking 2 cups of green tea a day really supports health and wellness. Lipton did a lot of studies on it, and it's a great ally for wellness and a simple way to up your everyday habits.
Lipton green tea also contains flavonoids, which are naturally occurring bioactives that help support your health. So getting a couple cups a day is going to do wonders for you.
Consumers are going crazy for the new taste of Lipton's. It's one of the most trusted tea brands in the world. And my favorite way, like I said, is doing iced. You could also do it hot. You can add different things to it like lemon, green tea, ginger, mint.
I love the nostalgia of this brand. I grew up actually watching my mom drink Lipton iced tea all the time in the house. It's been one of America's most beloved tea brands since 1871. So you know they know what they're doing.
Green tea is full of health benefits, and you can find Lipton throughout the country in your local retailer.
So check them out. They have new signature green tea blends as well as new honey ginger peach blends. What I love about Lipton green tea is I was a huge coffee drinker for many years. It was destroying my adrenals. Now I'm down to 1 cup, and then throughout the rest of the day to have a warm beverage, I just switched to Lipton green tea.
Are you looking for sleek, affordable bags and luggage? Let me introduce you to Base. You've probably heard about this. It's all over Instagram. It was created by actress Shay Mitchell. They just did a collab with my friends at Lonely Ghost. It's so beautiful. Everything is like classic red. They sent me the suitcase. It's so beautiful. It's just sleek and red. You have to check it out. But they have this bag that I've told all my friends about. It's a cosmetic bag. And what I use it for is all my skincare when I travel. So I love to use it so my skincare doesn't spill everywhere. It's almost like someone just knew how to travel with skincare, aka Shay, and designed something that really hits every point and function for the skincare lover. You could obviously also use it for makeup, but this cosmetic bag is the best of the best. It's always sold out. I like the black one. If you go on their site though, be prepared. You will find so many good things for travel. They really thought of every single thing when it comes to any kind of jet setting. People are so obsessed that Base has over 30,000 5-star reviews. So whether you're packing for a quick trip or you just want to breeze through the security lines like Michael Bostic does every single time, Base has your personal items covered. Right now, Base is offering our listeners 15% off your first purchase by visiting basetravel.com/skinny. Go to basetravel.com/skinny for 15% off your first purchase. That's BEIS travel.com/skinny. You know what I love? A warm cookie when I fly. And that's why Delta Airlines is the best. If you want to feel at home long before you even got there, get Delta. They have curated travel experiences created just for you. They're always delivered with welcome and caring service. And I know this because I love flying Delta. You should know they have everything from plant-based dishes to bamboo cutlery to organic, gluten-free, nutrient-packed snacks. And don't forget about the cookies. My favorite part, though, truly is the fast, free Delta Wi-Fi. It's available for Sky Miles members. I am a Sky Mile member, so is Michael. And it's so easy to like get online and work. I really like to get in there when I'm flying. I like to get in on my email. My whole team like freaks out when they know I'm flying because that means really great Wi-Fi and like silence if I'm not traveling with kids. You can also get an herbal tea, a cold brew, a sparkling wine, and more, and sit and just experience the comforts of home when you're in flight. I like things to be efficient. I like to be spending my time wisely, and to sit on my email while I'm being served a warm tea or a sparkling wine while I'm having amazing Wi-Fi is the move for me. You may not be home yet, but Delta Airlines helps you feel a little bit like it. Delta Airlines believes you should feel at home even if you're 30,000 feet above it. Learn more at delta.com.
It's life-changing.
What
It really
are some
is.
primal things that you guys do every day? Like, I feel like you two are the perfect people to ask. Are you guys like waking up and like getting your chicken eggs out of the coop? Like, tell me, what are you guys doing?
Taylor's at a different scale than me.
Yeah,
Taylor
tell me-
actually like runs
me
a
all your
ranch.
weird shit.
I like live in a neighborhood,
Okay.
but
Are you out grounding every morning? Like, tell me
Oh.
what you're doing.
Grounding so hard. Absolutely. Grounding all of my body, getting outside. I live in the country, so I can get naked. I can get
Okay.
full spectrum sunlight, morning, afternoon,
You're sun
and
in your
night.
butthole.
I don't do that one.
It's good.
I have before, but it wasn't really for me. My wife thought it was a little odd. My dog one time accidentally like came up and snuck attacked me. And that was a weird relationship with my dog now.
You don't need your dog blowing you in the morning.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
exactly. We're
those
good.
whiskers got your attention,
Yeah,
huh?
that tickled a little bit. But no, I mean, earthing is powerful. Going outside, getting that sunlight right now, that's masterful. And then just saying gratitude to the cosmos, to the earth. I'll talk to plants. I'll talk to my animals.
What are you guys eating?
So like for me, it's like, because like family, right? I mean, community. This is an important primal things, right? So it's daughter first thing, breakfast with family, workout, ground while watering my plants and getting sun and throwing the ball for my dog. That's like my wake up. But I eat. Yes, we have chickens. They have a lot of chickens. I got a few. It's really important for me that my daughter sees us like producing food and sees animals. But I mean, we eat a lot of. My daughter's 2.5 years old, and she'll eat like 2 pieces of Force of Nature sausage and 2 eggs in the morning. Like she is practically a carnivore. She's such a beast. It's like breakfast sausages and ancestral blend meats is what my family lives on. Well, yeah, there you go. What are we eating? Like a lot of that. Like I'll get busy and I will just get some like really good organic vegetables and make a stir fry with ancestral blend. You know, like 1 package of vegetables, 2 packages of ancestral blend, very meat centric. But that's, you know, meat. I try to just, and red meat. We don't eat a lot of poultry.
Why do you think that a lot of people have said you can't eat red meat every day? Is that just propaganda?
I think there was a war on saturated fat that's getting corrected. You know, I think people are realizing like, oh, coconut oil, avocado oil, these are saturated fats, and like, oh, our brain, you know, needs cholesterol to run, and cholesterol makes up our cells, and like, you know, I think we're coming back from like this Ansel Keys war on saturated fat, and I think red meat just got caught up in it. And then I think that there's like some polarizing sort of religious-esque views on animals, and you know, cows just happen to be the biggest, to your point, Michael, you know, animals in the food production system. And so, you know, the idea of killing a large, beautiful animal is really difficult for some people to accept. And so I think there's a number of reasons like that, especially when you look at how they are typically and conventionally raised. And you see these feedlots, and it's just a tragedy to see animals shoulder to shoulder in filth. You know, these systems are the reason 80% of antibiotics used in the US are used in that industrial animal system. They are used as growth promotants, and it takes something like that to sustain life in an environment that's not compatible with life. You know, it's truly horrific. And so it doesn't take, but that same thing exists for chicken, which has been growing in consumption on pounds, dollars, and per capita consumption. So it's not just those other factors. I think it's the saturated fat and those things.
Say somebody has not been eating meat, but they are listening to this, or they've been, you know, getting more informed, and they're thinking about starting to eat meat again. What are some of the things from both of your perspectives that they can start getting now from meat sources that they're probably not getting if they don't have meat in their diet? Because I think a lot of times people think they can get some of the same substance in different diets, and maybe you can get some of it, but I believe you can't get all the things that meat provides. And I just would love to hear your perspective. Like if you have had no meat in your diet and now you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna take the plunge. What are some of the things you think they're gonna start benefiting from immediately?
I mean, just from my wife's perspective, you know, being plant-based for a really long time, she had challenges with B12, with iron deficiencies, and that's a global thing. And so
energy will be off, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, energy will be off. And also, yeah, you're just not feeling like you're living at your highest potential, your highest frequency. And so for her to reintroduce that in such a potent way that's bioavailable too, that our species has been eating for 250,000 years, it's like, it's not hard to make that transition. I think there's more apprehension, but once people actually dip their toe in the water, there's no turning back. I've heard tons of stories of people saying like, man, this plant-based diet wasn't working for me. I wasn't feeling great. And then I made this switch and this pivot and started eating more meat. Hallelujah. Like praise be. But I've never heard the opposite where someone said, I've been eating regenerative whole food diet based with meat front and center and it didn't work for me. And so I went plant-based and then it saved my life.
Well, and the ease of getting, like we know protein's big too, right? So getting enough protein, depending on where you're at and what some of your goals are, but you cannot get all of the essential amino acids from a plant-based diet. You can from a meat-based diet, and they're bioavailable, and it's more nutrient dense. And so, kind of that same example of those micronutrients of need. It takes less meat to get the right amount of protein or those amino acids versus like bowls and bowls and bowls and monster bowls of kale or beans or whatever this other thing may be. There's a few things like that I would
leave us with all the benefits that you've seen. And maybe you guys have testimonials from people. Like tell us about all the weird benefits, you mentioned beauty, anything that you know about meat.
One that I feel is important for women who are pregnant. You are what you eat. You guys already alluded to that. That's a fact. And so what you put in your body, the matter that you chew will become you, and it will become your unborn child. Like you're literally developing.
So that's why I have a meatball.
The cells of their body.
My little meatball.
Yeah. I mean, that is the greatest investment and the greatest gift. And so to be able to provide that beautiful child the best opportunity, the best foot forward in life, there's no other way to nurture yourself as a mother to create life by eating foods that are from systems that are abundant in life.
I love that. Any other benefits that you want to leave for our audience? Any crazy testimonials?
And number one, I think we live in a world full of challenges, and especially as you're talking about being a father and having or mother and having children, like setting your kids up for success in a world where they are, 1 in 4 girls are going to be depressed. That's the data today. It's horrifying, and so it's like, again, all of the mental health benefits, all the physical benefits and the benefits on energy and your metabolism and so on and so forth. But, we talked a little bit about vegans, and you had said somebody who might be, meat curious perhaps. We have so many testimonials of vegans that started eating meat, and they were drawn to our company for the values that we represent, which again, as Taylor kind of noted, sort of stem from a vegan history. And like the people that'll come and like write us these like gut-wrenching, heartfelt, like I haven't been able to conceive for years, and then I started reincorporating meat and particularly your products, and all of a sudden like we were able to get pregnant and like I'm feeling better and energy, like that's an incredible story. Then I was so depressed, I was suicidal, like I didn't feel like I had a purpose in life, and I started reincorporating and eating I was eating meat before, but I started improving, like paying attention and being more conscious of what system I'm a part of, and an eating meat that I felt like started like bringing value into my life, not just into my body, that made me like changed my whole life and perspective. And now I'm doing this incredible thing, and I'm really proud and fulfilled every day. I mean, the list goes on and on. We get hundreds and hundreds of these letters all of the time from people. I mean, you said walking in here about how important it was to you. Like those are remarkable testimonials from people from a variety of different backgrounds and on different journeys that are just seeing incredibly profound benefits, not of doing anything remarkable, just like introducing healthy quality meat from a system that is values-based and is promoting value in your life over cheapness at the register.
I think what the craziest thing for me has been is the more force of nature that I eat, because I eat, like, as we know, a lot of meat all day long, the more I crave it. It's so weird. Have you guys heard this? Like I said, deer for breakfast, huh? Like it's not like I am trying to be controversial when I say that. My body craves it.
Your body likes what it's getting from it.
It likes it. And that's what I've really tapped into. I feel more confident from that because it is a primal thing in my body. The more I eat it, the more I crave it. Like I can't imagine going out to even eat and not ordering it. It's like I want it. Have you heard that?
It's funny. There's a I don't want to get too nerdy, and I got warned not to just go on like full nerd mode.
Who warned you?
Several people. Apparently, you have a fairly large following, lots of fans out there. But we had a presenter at a conference that we hosted. A friend of mine, a guy named Fred Provenza. He wrote a book called Nourishment. It's super interesting. And one of the things that he spent his life studying is he was like, hey, like I go around looking at animals, like nobody, like they don't, like the FDA or the World Health Organization or the president doesn't tell them what to eat. And they somehow end up eating the right things and being healthy. And they can eat 50, 60, 70 different things in a pasture at any given time. Where is this coming from? It's like, well, it's this innate, fundamental, natural wisdom we all have. And so, Lauren, that's like your body. Your body knows. And by the way, like the flora in our gut, this relationship and the symbiosis we have with our microbiome, which is largely not us, also knows. And so they're giving you signals. Those cravings that's not imagined, that's real and tangible. That's the wisdom of nature and the wisdom of our body saying, you need this, you want this is good for you. This is giving you everything that we need to thrive.
I want to say something that some people may not like. Wouldn't be the first time I said something people don't like. But I think one of the difficulties, especially now in the culture that we're in, is people attribute their identity to a diet, right? Or they say they're a specific thing, and they form a lot of their identity based off of this, a certain way of eating. And people do it with meat, people do it with plants. But I think the difficulty with saying I am this or I am that from a dietary standpoint turns the signals that you're talking about off, because it's a way for you to disregard what your body's really trying to say to you because you've told yourself, no, I'm this thing. And so you're able to ignore maybe some of the things your body's saying to you. Does that make sense? Like if you've told yourself, I eat this specific way and not this way, your body may be signaling to you, hey, you need these things, but your mind is then able to overpower. And I think like we've gotten really good at turning the signals off and getting further away from, what we should be doing from a
gotta listen to your antennas.
Yeah, but I was going to say we're antennas. Yeah, exactly. And what you're describing is an antenna that is out of tune.
Yep.
Because antennas receive information and transmit information. When you can dial that in, you plug back into something that's greater than yourself, you have the awareness to know what your body needs. It's innate.
Yeah, people do it with everything. I mean, like even if you take politics, if you tell yourself you're a certain type of way and you're only that way, you're going to ignore all the other stuff and all the other information because you've made it part of your identity, which I think like identity, anything is dangerous. Why we like talking to so many different people in so many different walks of life is it keeps the antenna sharp, right? Like we need to hear information, even if it's counter to what we believe, to like hone in on, what makes the most sense for the way we live our life. But, when you get so focused in on like, I am this specific thing, I lean this way politically, I eat this way, I'm this identity, like you're just ignoring 1,000 signals that are potentially coming to you.
Yeah, I think there's like a tragedy. I mean, so much of the polarization that we see in life today is a result of that, a lack of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
a lack of open-mindedness and willingness to be humble and listen and learn.
Well, after this episode, I'm going to eat my ancestral blend every single day. I'm going to ground and I'm going to make Michael sun his butthole and make sure my dog is right next to him.
And don't forget the chewy cuts.
We're in the suburbs right now. If our neighbors look over, I'm sorry.
You guys, I didn't ask you this. Can we do a code for our audience?
Yeah, we actually got one for you.
Okay.
We made sure of that. So it is him and her 15.
Okay.
15% off, which is a big number on a big box of meat.
Okay. I would recommend the Ancestral blend. I also love your ground beef so much, but I feel like I need to try the sausages.
And we will be using our own code now.
I will be using my own code. Him and her 15 forceofnature.com at Force of Nature Meats on Instagram. Where can everyone find you guys if they have questions? Pimp yourself out. Tell us all the places.
If you want to get like boots on the ground and get your hands dirty, you can come out to the ranch in Fredericksburg. You can follow us at Rome Ranch on Instagram.
Awesome.
Taylor, also Force of Nature, we work with tons of ranches like the one out in Fredericksburg. Taylor does a really good job with the podcast Where Hope Grows.
Oh, right.
Cool.
Super awesome podcast that he leads and we'll sometimes get together on. And then thank you for calling us out on Instagram and our website. I would love for people to buy the products for sure. I'm not gonna tell you otherwise, but meet a farmer near you, shake somebody's hand, eat more meat. Don't have to buy from us, but definitely follow us. Like we just want to educate you. We want to connect people to these issues in food. So please just read the blogs, listen to the content, learn, get closer to where your food's coming from and who's producing your food.
Thank you guys so much. I do want to tell you, I heard about you initially from Joe Rogan. Is that where a lot of people have said they've heard about you guys?
Mm-hmm. Come up a couple times.
Right.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, I heard him on his podcast talk about you guys and I went and bought and fell in love with it. So, if he approves of it too. It's 10 out of 10. I love your meat. Thanks for making my meatball baby and for helping me lose 60 pounds.
Don't ever tell other men you love their meat again. All right, guys, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.